Okay, so you know that feeling, right? When you've got like just a ton of stuff to read,
Oh,
like
yeah.
articles, or maybe you've got these like dense reports for work,
Yeah.
or even you're just trying to get through
Right.
a really interesting but complex book.
I know exactly what you mean.
It's like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yes.
So what if there was a way to not just like get through it all,
Right.
but to actually understand it and remember the key information
Yes.
more effectively and maybe even faster?
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think that would be great.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're looking at today on the deep dive.
Okay.
It's something that we call here at University 365 reading rocket fuel.
Okay.
But it's actually built around a technique that's been around for a while
Yeah.
called the PQRST primer.
Yes.
And it's one of our UNOP Neuro-Hacks.
Okay.
And it's aimed at boosting your reading comprehension and retention.
That's right.
Yeah.
So PQRST stands for Preview, Question, Read, Summarize, and Test. And it's a 5-step framework.
Got it.
That might seem simple,
Yeah.
but it's really grounded in some interesting cognitive science.
Okay, so let's unpack this Neuro-Hack idea for a second.
Sure.
PQRST isn't brand new, is it?
No, not at all.
Like, what's the history here?
Yeah, so the PQRST method has been around in educational psychology
Okay,
for quite a while.
got it.
And it's effective because of how it strategically
Okay.
engages our brains in the reading process.
Okay.
So the Neuro-Hack aspect, as
Yeah.
we call it, within University 365's neuroscience-oriented pedagogy, or UNOP,
Right.
refers to how it leverages key cognitive functions.
Okay.
Like, for example, the previewing and questioning steps
Yeah.
really help activate prior knowledge,
Okay.
which, as we know, makes new information stickier.
Right.
And the summarizing and test steps
Mm.
are really powerful for active recall,
Okay.
a process that research in journals like Psychological Science
Right.
has shown really strengthens memory pathways. So the idea is to work with our brain's natural learning mechanisms.
So it's about being more strategic in how we approach reading,
Exactly.
rather than just kind of passively absorbing the words on the page.
That's right.
And I guess this aligns with University 365's focus on effective learning strategies
Yes.
through ULP.
Yes, through UNOP, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the first step,
Okay.
which is preview.
Yes.
What exactly are we trying to achieve here?
So the goal of the preview step is to get a high-level overview of the material
Mhm.
before you actually start reading it in detail.
Okay.
Think of it as getting the lay of the land before you embark on a journey.
So, like, what would be some concrete things you would do to preview something?
So it's a quick scan.
Okay.
If it's a book, you might look at the table of contents,
Right.
chapter headings, and any subheadings.
Uh-huh.
In an article, you quickly read the abstract or the introduction.
Okay.
Skim the section headings and just glance at any bolded text
Got it.
or visuals.
Got it.
And for University 365's book essentials, or even your lecture notes,
Right.
same principle.
Yeah.
Identify the main topics and the structure.
Okay.
And this shouldn't take more than 30 seconds to a couple of minutes.
So just a quick mental outline of what's to come.
Exactly.
What's the benefit of doing that?
Yeah, so that initial preview
Yeah.
is surprisingly beneficial in reducing cognitive overload.
Okay.
Because by giving your brain a framework,
Okay.
a mental scaffolding
Mm-hmm.
of what to expect,
Right.
it doesn't have to work as hard
Okay.
to process the information when you read in detail.
Interesting.
Like if your brain gets a sneak peek,
Uh-huh.
which makes the subsequent deeper dive
Right.
less overwhelming.
I see. So it's like knowing the stops on a train line before you get on board.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So step 2 is question.
Yes,
So now we're moving from passive looking to active thinking.
precisely.
Okay.
The aim here is to activate your curiosity and focus your reading.
Oh.
So you're essentially setting a purpose
Got it.
for engaging with the material.
Okay. So what are the practical steps for forming these questions then?
You want to formulate one or two specific questions
Okay.
that you genuinely want the text to answer.
Uh-huh.
And this is a key recommendation within our Reading Rocket Fuel guide.
Okay.
Write these questions down by hand,
Okay.
whether it's on a physical notepad or in a digital notebook.
Right.
The act of physically engaging with the question is important.
Okay.
You can even discard these notes later if you wish.
Got it.
It's the process that matters.
Okay. So why the emphasis on handwriting?
Well, there's research
Yeah.
that suggests that the physical act of handwriting
Okay.
engages different neural pathways than typing.
Interesting.
It can help to encode the questions more deeply in your memory
Okay.
and create a stronger mental connection to what you're about to read.
Okay.
It's about making the process more active
Yeah.
and less passive.
So by taking that extra moment to write those questions down,
Yeah.
how does that actually improve our learning?
It transforms your reading into a much more purposeful activity.
Okay.
Instead of passively absorbing information,
Right.
you're actively seeking answers.
Mm-hmm.
This focused approach helps you filter out the less relevant details
Got it.
and concentrate on the information that directly addresses your questions.
Okay.
So it's a much more efficient way to engage with the text.
I can see how having those questions in mind would almost act like a filter.
Exactly.
Okay, step 3 is read.
Yes.
But it sounds like the first 2 steps have actually prepared us to read.
Oh,
As I think
absolutely.
too. Okay.
Having previewed the material and formulated your questions,
Yeah.
your reading in this step becomes much more targeted.
Right.
So your goal is to engage with the core content,
Okay.
keeping those questions you've written down at the forefront of your mind.
So we're not necessarily giving equal attention to every sentence?
That's right.
Okay.
You're focusing your attention on the key paragraphs and sections
Yeah.
that appear most likely to provide answers to your questions.
Okay.
You're reading with intent,
Right.
actively searching for specific information.
Yeah.
It's about being a detective looking for clues
I like that.
to answer your self-generated questions.
I like that a lot.
Yeah,
Okay, so that sounds like a much more engaged way to read.
it is.
All right, we're halfway through PQRST.
We are,
Step 4 is summarize.
yes,
This is where we really start to solidify what we've learned.
absolutely.
Right.
The goal of summarizing is to condense the information you've just read into its main points.
Okay.
This process of active recall
Yeah.
is crucial for moving information
Right.
from your short-term to your long-term memory.
Okay, so what are the recommended steps for summarizing effectively then?
First, after reading a section,
Mhm.
take a moment to mentally restate the main idea
Okay.
and the key supporting details in your own words.
Got it.
Then,
Yeah.
and this is another important element we emphasize at University 365, write these down by hand
Right.
in a notebook or on paper.
Okay.
And we specifically suggest using a mind map format for this.
Okay.
It's a very effective way to visually organize the information.
A mind map.
Yes.
Visually representing the information.
Exactly.
With like branches and connections.
Yes.
Why is that a particularly powerful summarizing technique?
Mind maps
Mhm.
tap into our brain's natural inclination for visual
Okay.
and spatial organization.
Interesting.
They allow you to see the relationships
Yeah.
between different ideas at a glance.
Uh-huh.
And by combining this visual structuring
Right.
with the active recall involved in summarizing
Okay.
and the physical act of handwriting,
Yeah.
really reinforces the learning process on multiple levels.
So it's not just passively rereading it, it's about actively reconstructing the information
Yes.
in a way that makes sense to you.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes total sense for retention.
Yeah.
All right, and finally, the last step is test. This sounds like a quick check to see how well we've grasped the material.
That's exactly it.
Okay.
The goal of the test step is to immediately assess your understanding
Right.
of what you've just read and summarized.
Okay.
It provides immediate feedback on your comprehension.
So what does this test actually involve?
It's quite simple.
Okay.
You just ask yourself if you can recall the core messages
Mm-hmm.
of what you've just read.
Okay.
Can you answer the questions you formulated in step 2?
Yeah.
Can you recount the main points you included in your summary?
Got it.
It's a self-assessment.
So it's like a quick mental review to
Yeah.
see what stuck and what didn't.
Yes.
Okay.
This immediate self-testing helps identify any gaps in your understanding right away,
Got it.
signaling if you need to revisit certain parts of the material.
Okay.
It's a crucial step in making sure the information is truly being absorbed.
Okay, so we've gone through all 5 steps of the PQRST primer.
We have.
Now, how about our listeners try to put this into practice? Maybe using some of the resources that we have available through University 365.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's say you're working through one of University 365's book essentials
Okay.
on project management.
Right.
And the current section is discussing the critical path method.
Okay.
So following PQRST, you would first preview the headings related to this method.
Right.
Then for question, you might ask, what is the critical path method?
Yes.
And how can I use it in my projects?
Good questions.
You would then read the section focusing on finding the answers to those questions.
Exactly.
For summarize, you could create a mind map outlining the steps involved,
That's a good idea.
in identifying the critical path and its significance.
Yeah.
And finally, for test, you'd ask yourself if you can explain the critical path method
Yeah.
and how you would apply it.
That's a perfect application of PQRST.
And you mentioned that University 365 has other resources
Yes, we do.
that complement this kind of learning.
We
All
do
right.
for many of our resources, including our materials on learning strategies like reading rocket fuel.
Okay.
We offer discussions to learn, or D2L Deep Dive podcasts.
Okay.
These feature conversations with University 365 faculty like myself,
Yeah.
further exploring the concepts.
Okay.
So after applying PQRST to a topic,
Yeah.
listening to a related D2L podcast
Uh-huh.
can provide even deeper insights and different perspectives.
Oh, that's a great way to reinforce.
It is.
And expand on what you've learned through
Yeah.
PQRST.
Yeah.
And how does UCopilot, the University 365 AI agent,
Right.
fit into this learning process?
UCopilot can be incredibly valuable
Okay.
when used in conjunction with PQRST.
Uh-huh.
If you find any aspect of the PQRST method itself unclear,
Yeah.
you can ask UCopilot for clarification,
Okay.
even more powerfully.
Yeah.
After you've used PQRST on a learning resource,
Okay.
you can use UCopilot to test your understanding.
Right.
Try prompts like,
Okay.
I just used the PQRST method to study topic
Uh-huh.
from a University 365 resource.
Right.
Can you give me a few quiz questions
Okay.
to check what I've learned?
Got it.
It acts as a personalized study aid available whenever you need it.
That's a smart integration of AI
Yeah,
into the learning process,
definitely.
providing immediate feedback and reinforcement.
It does.
So as we start to wrap up our deep dive into PQRST,
Yeah.
what's the key message you want our listeners to take away?
I think the key message is this
Yeah.
small strategic steps in your learning process, like previewing and questioning,
Right.
can significantly enhance your understanding and retention.
Okay.
It's about working smarter with your brain,
I like that.
making those initial small investments of time and effort
Right.
that lead to much greater learning outcomes.
So the PQRST primer offers us a quick, efficient,
Yes,
and as we've heard, science-backed method
it does.
to get more out of our reading
Yes,
in just a few minutes.
that's
per
right.
section.
Exactly. And it perfectly embodies University 365's overarching approach to learning.
Okay.
Our neuroscience-oriented pedagogy, UNOP.
Right.
We focus on integrating learning techniques
Yeah.
that align with how our brains naturally process and retain information,
Uh-huh.
making the learning experience more effective and less overwhelming.
Okay.
And PQRST is a prime example
Yeah.
of our commitment to providing you with practical,
Right.
evidence-based tools
Uh-huh.
for academic and professional success.
Got it.
Often delivered through our 5MTS or 5 minutes to success microlearning modules.
If our listeners are excited about trying out this reading rocket fuel
Yeah.
and want to explore more of these UNOP Neuro-Hacks
Yeah.
and the resources that we mentioned, where can they find more information?
The University 365 platform
Okay.
is the central hub for all of this.
Perfect.
You can delve deeper into UNOP,
Uh-huh.
access the Reading Rocket Fuel Guide,
Okay.
listen to our Discussions to Learn podcasts,
Right.
and discover a wide array of other microlearning resources. Yeah.
All designed to empower you on your learning journey.
Okay, and for our final thought as we conclude this deep dive,
Okay.
consider this.
Okay.
In a world where information overload is a constant challenge,
It is.
mastering simple,
Yeah.
yet powerful learning techniques like PQRST
Yes.
can be your most valuable asset.
I agree.
It's not just about passively consuming information.
Yeah.
It's about actively engaging with it to truly understand it and apply it.
Exactly.
And this fundamental shift can ultimately make you more effective
Yes.
and knowledgeable in every aspect of your life.
I agree.
So what other seemingly small shifts in your learning habits
Yeah, that's a great question.
could unlock significant advantages for you?
Yeah.
Think about it.
I like that.